Hello, I'm Rob Neidlinger, and I own Neidlinger Enterprises. I own Neidlinger Rentals. I own Silver Spring Personal Care Home. I also own a number of companies that own all kinds of apartment complexes. Right now, my company owns and manages about 800 apartments and houses. We also have in that number about 17 Airbnbs, and we just built our first personal care home, which is 64 beds. We also have some storefronts in that number of 800, and we also have some industrial property. We own two large warehouses in Carlisle, Pennsylvania. And so that's just a mixture of what we do. We also own a real estate team called the Heather Neidlinger team, and we've been doing that for about 17 or 18 years. We've been in business since 1998. Dealing in construction and all kinds of things. But I tell you what, I wanted to go back and give you a little more history on how we got to this, because this just doesn't happen overnight. I do not have a silver spoon. I don't have everything given to me. My dad wasn't independently wealthy when I started these businesses. So, going back to like middle school and early parts of high school, what I remember is, my dad always being a hard worker. He worked for the government. He was the highest civilian you could be in the government, and he worked in New Cumberland, which is about 45 minutes away, and always on the side, he was either doing some lot subdivision or trying to build some houses with some other people. He was usually funding the projects and having someone else do the projects. And I can remember back, I think when I was in middle school, my dad built a development, and I don't think he had a lot of cash saved up, and I don't think he actually had a great business sense when doing lots. So he was developing these properties, a big maybe 30 lot subdivision. It took a lot of money, and I don't think in the end he made a whole lot of money doing that. And I think the reason he didn't is because land development, you have to have all cash to weather a storm. If the market goes down while you're in that development, I think if you're all cash, you can't get hurt. I think my dad borrowed some money for some of those land projects, and looking back, I just stayed away from long development deals and long development projects that take time, energy, and money and aren't necessarily have an end goal. So I kind of learned that from my dad in middle school. Let's fast forward a little bit. I started wrestling in middle school. I get asked all the time on TikTok, what's wrong with your ear? Were you a fighter? Were you a wrestler? So yes, I was a wrestler. I started wrestling in middle school. I wasn't very good. I don't think I won any tournaments in middle school. My dad was not a wrestler, but I liked it. I kept at it, and I kept practicing. And fast forward a little bit, I did some club practice, which was just beginning at that time, which is called freestyle wrestling. And so 8th, 9th grade, I started doing this freestyle wrestling. And fast forward into 9th grade and then into 10th grade, I actually made the lineup in high school as a 10th grader. I beat out one of the varsity kids, and I finally was starting to see myself getting better. But guess what? We're going to talk about what you shouldn't do at that time. So I was failing English. And at the same time, I failed gym class. Why would you fail gym class? Well, we were doing aerobics back then, and I'm a little bit of a smart ass at times, and I was being a smart aleck in gym class, and sure enough, I got failed gym class. And because I was already failing English, I could not compete in the tournaments at the end of the year, my 10th grade year. And I was devastated. I couldn't believe this had happened. I knew I was failing one, and I thought I had it mastered. So if you want to learn anything from this little talk today, is you should 100% do your best schoolwork possible, because it can hold you back if you aren't doing good in school, if you aren't showing up, and if you aren't doing what you're supposed to do. It can have a negative impact, and it did have a negative impact in 10th grade. And after 10th grade, I went to a football camp with my friends. All my high school buddies. We went to a Michigan State football camp that summer. And then after that, I went to a 28-day wrestling camp in Iowa, or I think it was Minnesota. In Minnesota, they had a 28-day intensive camp. And I went out to this camp for 28 days, and I got to see wrestling from a different perspective. I got to see college kids and how they dedicate their life to wrestling and really pushing themselves mentally where they never thought they could go. And when we were there for that wrestling camp, they gave us an option. You said you can run a 15-mile run, or you can run a 20-mile run, or you can run a 25-mile run. Like, they didn't even give you an option for the 5-mile or the 10-mile. So I think they made us do a 15-mile run. I did the run. I learned how to push myself at this camp. I came back from this camp and I told my dad, I said, I think I can do something in this sport if I dedicate myself to it. I said, but Dad, I think I need to quit football. And my dad said, Rob, if that's what you want to do, go ahead and do it. So I made the decision that 10th grade year that I wasn't going to play football and I was going to put all of my effort into wrestling. And that's what I did. And I know my buddies weren't happy with it, and I still get criticized about it to this day. But I went all in on wrestling, starting my 11th grade year, and I just trained all the time. I went and found the best practice partners. My new coach, my senior year, had me wrestling outside of my school district. I didn't go to a lot of my own practices. I went and found the best of the best, and I continuously worked to get better. I ended up in wrestling in high school. I placed sixth my junior year, and I ended up placing fifth my senior year at states in Pennsylvania. I was ranked number one going in my senior year. My whole dedication to wrestling was coming down to that one season. I was 32 or 34-0 going into states. Everything was dedicated towards winning that state title. I was ranked number one. I was undefeated, and sure enough, in the state semifinals, I was upset. I think I lost 6-4 and ended up kind of defaulting to fifth place because I had a goal to be number one. I failed at that goal. I did not hit my goal. I was devastated. My friends were devastated. 25 years to this day, they still remind me about that anniversary of that loss. They pick on me and give me a hard time about the losses more than they ever do the wins. But I can tell you, by not hitting my goals there, it pushed me to get even better. So just another thing that we used to do. So in the summers of high school, between my sophomore, junior, and senior year, we built a house every single summer with our dad. So our dad, since he was a little bit of a developer, he bought a local lot like right down the street from our house every single summer, and we would build a house each summer. Now, we didn't have a whole lot of teachers on how to build the house the right way, so we were kind of doing houses the way we wanted to do them, and we thought we knew what we were doing. We did build, I think in ninth grade, we were working with a family friend. His name was Bob. He would always build houses, and we would go help him on the weekends or evenings, and Bob would always show us what to do on how to build a house. So it would take him a year to build a house. So I don't know if he really knew the way we should be building a house, but he was very detailed. If we were hammering a nail and the nail went out in the yard, we would have to go find that nail. If we didn't find the nail, Bob would have a meltdown. We would probably end up going to the store for a soda break if we couldn't find the nail. Bob was a lunatic when we would lose a nail. So when you're building with Bob, you do not want to lose nails in the yard, because he would freak out, because he would think a car or a vehicle is going to get a flat tire, and that would wreck his mind. So we learned from Bob how to build some entry-level stuff, and then with our dad in the summers, we started building a house a summer. Our 10th grade summer, our 11th grade summer, and our 12th grade summer, we would build one house every single summer. We would try to make a profit on it. I don't even know how the profit and losses went for that, because I never really got paid. We just went and built the houses. But I will give you one story. We were building a huge 2-story house, just 2 blocks from our house. We put up the second floor walls. We were setting trusses. It was me and my brothers there. We set all of the trusses on this house. We didn't necessarily have it all braced up correctly, and the wind came through, and all of the trusses on this particular house fell over in the wind. And we were there. I think my brother might have broke his leg jumping down, because the trusses were going down like while we were setting up. I mean, this was a catastrophe, people. Like, we just did not know what we were doing. We did not have all the bracing in there correctly, and the wind. We were just setting up these trusses as fast as possible across this roof, and we didn't have them braced correctly. So we did learn the right way to brace things after that, and we over braced every single house after that catastrophe. I think my brother broke his leg or hurt his leg, and that was the damage. It could have been much worse. So that was my building experience in high school and going into college. So my next step in my life was figuring out, where do I go to college? Am I going to wrestle in college? And where do I wrestle in college? Well, during my senior year of high school, my dad took me up to a Penn State versus Iowa wrestling match. And I had never been to Penn State. I had never been to a college wrestling match ever. And I tell you what, it was eye-opening. Seeing a Penn State-Iowa match back in 1992-ish, and Penn State was pretty amazing. I mean, they had like a top 2, top 3 team in the country. And when I went and watched that match, it was snowing. We walked right up to Rec Hall, right up from Beaver Avenue. And when we were walking up there and the snow coming down, and you know, I was just thinking to myself, and after I saw that match and I was walking down to my car with my dad, you know, and I looked at my dad and I said, Dad, I want to wrestle at Penn State. I don't care if I have to walk on. I want to come and be the best. And if I can't make it here, I just don't want to do it at all. And my dad said, okay. And I kind of set my goal and my heart on wrestling at Penn State. So I contacted Penn State. I told them what I wanted to do, and they gave me a chance. They said I could walk on there just before my senior year of just at the end of my senior year of high school. So we had junior national for the freestyle tournament out in Fargo, North Dakota. And I had never qualified for the national tournament in any level. And I know they did it at juniors, cadets, and you know, even younger ages. So I qualified. I took first or second in my state tournament, which qualified me for Fargo and freestyle. And I went out at that tournament, and it was my first major freestyle tournament. And I think I took sixth, which was All-American. So I was an All-American at junior national freestyle. There was even a guy in my weight class who won the Olympics and did not place at this weight class. So that's how strong my weight class was at Fargo. So placing at that tournament gave me some confidence going into Penn State. I walked on at Penn State, and boy, did I get my butt whipped the first year or two. So I worked my butt off. I ended up, long story short, I won't go through all the details, but they brought someone in every single year from Ohio or New Jersey to beat me at Penn State. And they expected every one of these high recruits to beat me every single year. And every single year I worked harder and harder and harder. When we went on runs, I was the fastest runner. I might have only got beat on the long runs by 1 or 2 people my junior and senior year at Penn State. I worked my butt off. I did everything that I could to make myself the best. And long and short of it is I'm number 58 on the all-times win list at Penn State Wrestling at the moment. I was a captain my senior year. I was a leader. I was the one pushing the younger guys, and I think we finished 3rd or 4th my senior year at Nationals. I did fall a little bit short of my goal. I was 8th seeded going into Nationals. I ended up losing to the guy that won it. I lost by a point. I did get kind of a bad call, but we're not going to go there. I did not win. Once again, I ended up just out one place outside of placing. I was happy with my results at Penn State Wrestling. The memories and the relationships that I built there will last a lifetime. And I can tell you the work ethic that I learned is second to none at Penn State Wrestling. And it's built a foundation that is now carried over into my business life. After finishing in 1998, I came home and basically started with my dad on the family business. We were good at home building. So even though my dad didn't have a true home building business, I said, Dad, I'll come home, I'll build houses. And you know, we had a vision of building a mobile home park, which was a 55 and over community. And that was our goal that we put our mind to. My dad was an engineer. He had bought the land on a sales agreement, and we were working through the process of building this 55 and over community. We saw a vision for passive income through this project, and we may not have had the funding set up for this project, but I went to work with my dad and I lived at home. We would work all day. At night when we were eating dinner and eating ice cream, we would talk about business. And I tell you what, those are some of the fondest memories I have of my dad, is sitting at his house in the evening and just sitting at that little round table and like literally talking about how we were going to do this and how we were going to do that. And we needed to do this and we needed to do that. And we were all in. I mean, it was a family affair. My brother Mike came into the business a year later, and he started an excavating company, and I started the building company. We got to the point we were building like 20 houses a year. This was in 1999, 2000, up until about 2008. We were going strong. We were building houses, selling houses, and putting all that money into our mobile home park that we wanted to do as a family. And sure enough, we got that large project off the ground, and the building company was very successful. My brother's excavating company was very successful, and we had all these dinners with our dad every single night, talking about how we were going to do this and how we were going to do that. And like I just go back and think that those were some of the greatest times we ever had. You know, my brother talking with my dad, and my mom was always there. She was just like a big cheerleader. No matter what we were doing, she was the cheerleader. Now, I will say it wasn't always rosy stuff with my dad, because my dad and I did butt heads a little bit, but my mom was always there. She was like in between us. If things got heated up for any reason, she would be the one there just like cheerleading us to get better. So there's a little of the entry level stuff on how we, you know, how I did wrestling, how I went to college, how I ended up going into business with my dad and business with my brother and business with my mom. And that's kind of sets the tone. I'll do some more videos talking about the next couple levels, you know, how we ended up bringing our wives into the mix, and how we ended up transitioning to some other projects, and how the recession affected us in 2008, because I think a lot of that stuff will help you understand and learn how I got to where I'm at right now. So stay tuned. Check out the next video coming soon.